Okay. Okay.
I'll go ahead and just welcome everyone. My name is Kayla Bisbee on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, as well as Shalom Baby and PJ Library. Just want to welcome you all to this series that Susan Donovan is so generously leading for us. Even myself with an almost 3-year-old can very much benefit from this. And if I hadn't missed the last 2 days, I would be here in my sweatpants as well. But, you know, snow days are, there you go. So Susan, if you want to take it away.
Okay, great. Okay, welcome everybody. So my name is Susan Donovan. I'm the Director of Fitness and Wellness Services here at the JCC. I've got just a little bit so you know who is instructing you. I'm closing in on 40 years in the business of fitness, wellness. I started when I was like 5 years old, so, and I do have a specialty in pelvic floor training, as well as women's health and wellness and coaching. So what I did today in collaboration with Kayla is put together a 4-week session of pelvic floor training. What you're gonna need, first of all, what you'll need before we get started is a mat or just a comfortable space on your floor. We're not going to move around a lot in doing this type of training. But you also would be wise if you have any issues laying down on the floor, any discomfort at all, get like a rolled up towel or cushion or something like that to support either your neck, your low back, or behind your knees. So that's an option. And the other thing, once we get into some of the movement practices, either a small pillow, or actually I'm using like a deflated Pilates ball. And you'll see why. So if you want to just grab those few props, we'll be ready to roll when we hit the floor. So pelvic floor training, basically the 4-week series is going to run like this. I'm going to start today by helping you to understand the anatomy of the pelvic floor and the musculature. It's much more involved than what you realize. So my job is to help you to understand that and the neuromuscular function of this muscle group. You're going to experience some gentle exercises that will help to improve the muscle tone of that muscle group. This 4-week session is compiled in a progressive approach. So we're going to start with basic conditioning, general understanding, and then every week I'm layering the movements and the exercises that you can adapt for effective results. Yes, there is going to be homework, but the homework is really, think of it like practice. It's practice, just like with any muscle function. Practice, you get stronger when you practice. So your bicep muscles get stronger when you do bicep curls more than just once a week, right? So it's really the same principle when we're training the pelvic floor. And I do want to make a disclaimer. I am not a physical therapist, so there is a very specific type of physical therapy to pelvic floor strengthening. If you're having any problem at all, a prolapse, anything, or if these exercises at the end of this 4 weeks, you should definitely see some progress. If you don't, then I would recommend talk to your doctor, your OBGYN about that, or consult with a specialized therapist. There are in Connecticut, there are specific therapy organizations, therapists that are trained in this work. It's very specified. And believe it or not, it's much more common than you realize. So I want to let you know that we should see results, but anything beyond that, you might need a little bit more medical support. So I want to start with just a few graphics to help you to better understand what we're talking about. So this graphic is pretty simple. These are the female organs, and if you notice the pelvic floor, think of it like it's like a hammock. It's much more involved than this, but our first first step is understanding and visualizing your pelvic floor as a hammock that lays at the bottom of your pelvis. The function of your pelvic floor is, number one, to support your pelvic, your organs, to control bladder and bowel, your passing of urine and feces, sexual function, breathing, pregnancy, and childbirth. These are all functions of what your pelvic floor does. This, again, this diagram of your pelvic floor, this is what we're going to be working on today. And if you notice how it's connected to your diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle that divides, it's like a sheath of muscle that divides your upper from your lower body, connected your transverse abdominis. This is your, we call it in Pilates, your girdle muscle, because it lies underneath the superficial musculature and it helps to draw in. So one of the goals after childbirth is to get, most women want to get their belly back in shape. They want to get back their figure, so to speak. Well, the transverse abdominis, which primarily stabilizes the pelvis and the low back, that's really the muscle group that will draw in and give you that corset, that girdle-like effect. Overlying your six-pack ab muscle, which is your rectus abdominis, lies over your transverse abdominis. So anyway, this is a little bit of anatomy just to get you to better understand, because I find when you're learning a technique, especially if this is new territory for you, it's good to have this visual, because you can make the movements and the exercises much more effective when you have that general understanding. So for today, think about your pelvic floor like a hammock supporting your pelvic organs. Imagine this is a toned hammock pelvic floor, and this is a droopy one. So we're going to use these visuals to help us move in the direction of learning, number one, how to do an effective Kegel, and number two, how to combine the Kegel contraction, muscular contraction of the pelvic floor, in concert with some positions and some other musculature, so we can start improving our muscle tone. So we're going to start in this position, working on how to do a Kegel, an effective Kegel. In this graphic, I'm going to take this down in a second, but this just shows you the cycle that we're going to run through. After we lay down with our knees bent, and you can just kind of see your pelvic organs a little bit there. We're going to start tensing at the bottom of the pelvis and then releasing. We're going to squeeze and hold for 5 seconds and then relax for 5 seconds. So we're going to start with a basic Kegel, and then I'm going to move you into a pelvic. I'm going to give you a little preview just so you can see the visual, because when you lay down on the floor, I want you to kind of focus, even close your eyes as you focus on my cues that will bring you into that neuromuscular awareness that is needed. From there, we're going to move into a pelvic tilt, a cat and camel, which again is movement of the spine and pelvis connecting our pelvic floor. And then we're going to work with a bridge, which will give us an opportunity to better experience the pelvic floor. So let's just jump into laying down on your mat. So I'm going to position myself so that you can follow me if you need the visual. If you want to, now this is an interactive workshop. So if you're comfortable and you want to show yourself on the screen, you can click on the little camera icon that is there, and then I'll be able to see you and help to position you. And if you prefer just being anonymous, that's okay too, whatever you're comfortable with. You will be able to follow my cues, so don't worry about that. So we're going to lay down in that position. Again, if you have any any neck issues, or if you're very kyphotic is very rounded in the upper back, this posture, then your rolled up towel or your cushion might be helpful to support your head. If you don't need that, don't worry about it. You can just get rid of it. So let's begin, everyone. Come on down on your mat, laying on the floor with your knees bent. Take a moment to look at your knees, space them just about hip width apart, your feet underneath your knees, and your arms just resting by your side. Take a moment here. Again, if you're comfortable, close your eyes. If you're not, you should be looking right up at the ceiling. I want you to relax your shoulder blades. Feel your shoulder blades evenly resting or imprinting on the surface below you. With your arms resting by your side, palms up, will allow your shoulder girdle to rest in a more comfortable position. So with your eyes closed, just notice your body on the mat, on the surface below you. Take a deep breath in your nose, relaxing everything. And when you exhale, put in your mind's eye the visual of that hammock, the musculature from your pubic bone to your coccyx, your tailbone, and allow your out breath to help you pull that hammock up towards your center. And then you're going to release and let it all soften. So try to do this. When you exhale, draw the pelvic floor gently up. And when you inhale, just soften and release. Practice, keep on going, and just listen to my cues. Practice this now without tensing anything else. It's going to be hard because I don't want your pelvis to move. I don't want you to be squeezing your buttocks or gripping anything. It's very subtle, but think about, exhale, just draw the bottom of the pelvis up. Inhale, soften everything else. Do a few more, just getting the feel, getting the connection. Again, use the visual of those graphics in your mind and see if that helps. It's very common for you to not be sure that you're doing this correctly. It's so subtle. It's very common for you to start noticing some tensing up in other parts of your body. Be aware if that's happening and draw your attention back to the simple engagement of drawing the pelvic floor up. A few things to think about is, you know how when you have to urinate really bad, you got to pee really bad and you're holding it in. Imagine you're stopping the stream of urine. Sometimes that helps. And the same thing with the bowel movement. Sometimes the bottom of your pelvis, you're drawing in and up. So the sensation is similar without the gripping. Or I don't know about you, but sometimes if I got to go real bad and we're on a road trip, sometimes I'm just like squeezing and holding everything in. So you want to notice and prevent that from happening. So we're going to practice this a few more times, and I'm going to ask that you hold for a count of 5. So on your next out breath, draw up the pelvic floor, hold for 5, relax, and soften for 5. So we exhale, draw the pelvic floor muscles like an elevator up, 2, 3, 4, 5, release, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, draw up and in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and release, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do 3 more cycles with your own count, and let your count be dictated by the breath. So when you exhale, a complete out breath, you're counting to 5, and then when you're ready to inhale again, you're counting to 5. And just notice if this movement, if this activation of your pelvic floor is becoming more clear. Do you feel like after repeating it, we're going to go for 10 or 12 times total, is that becoming a little bit easier? You're sensing a bit more control. And it's okay if you're not. Again, if this is very new territory, it's practice. It just takes practice. Okay, so after, go ahead and finish up in your own time. After that last set, I'm going to ask you just to extend your legs, shake out and relax everything. So let go of any muscle engagement, let go of everything. Let your body be heavy on the floor and take a nice deep breath. And come back to the same position. So the next exercise we're going to do is called a pelvic tilt. It's called a tuck and a tilt. We call it a pelvic tilt. Using the engagement of your pelvic floor. So once again, we visualize that hammock. You're going to draw in, but now we're going to invite some of the deeper core muscles to join and lower your back by imprinting it into your mat. So the pelvic floor draws up. You feel a gentle engagement of the deep abdominal muscles and the low back. The result of that is your low back imprinting into the mat. On your in-breath, you release, you soften, you allow your pelvis to now tilt. A tilt will draw your coccyx or your tailbone towards the floor and create just a little bit of space at the low back. We synchronize the breathing with, just like we did with the Kegel exercise, draw in, exhale, imprint the low back, and then we release that. We get the breath, allow the breath to fill the belly and allow the breath to tilt the pelvis as you soften the pelvic floor. So we exhale, we draw our hammock of a pelvic floor in and up right through the middle, imprint the low back, deep abdominals engage, and upon release, we breathe in, the pelvis tilts, and continue this, exhale, draw, in and up, imprint. Draw the breath in, allow everything to soften and your pelvis to tilt. Continue, we're going to do about 5 more and think about initiating the movement from the pelvic floor. And that activation of your pelvic floor draws up and recruits the deeper abdominal muscles. Keep on going and just listen to my cues to help perfect the movement. If you find yourself gripping any part of your body, sometimes you tighten up in the shoulders or the hands. More often, you have to resist the urge to squeeze the butt muscles. That's a very different exercise. The pelvic tilt is simply a movement initiated by the muscles of the pelvic floor and turning on the deep abdominal muscles. So go ahead, just a couple more and really work the breathing. Close your eyes now. On these last couple, close your eyes and feel and notice, is your pelvic floor, are you feeling a stronger connection Visualize, remember that hammock of muscles from droopy to toning up. Visualize an elevator being drawn up and then releasing it down. And go ahead and do one more. It's almost like a string attached to the center of your pelvic floor. And it's being pulled up, right, up to your abdomen. And now, after that last one, stay with me, stay in that position with your eyes closed. Come to neutral. So a neutral spine, a neutral pelvis is right in between those two, where you're most neutral, where you feel very comfortable. And now try to perform just the Kegel without the movement of the tuck and tilt. Hold for a count of 5, and then release it for a count of 5. And do a few of those. Is it becoming more clear? Are you feeling like you have a little more control? You're able to now engage in a clearer way the pelvic floor muscles and just kind of separating them from the movement of the body. Are you still breathing, or are you finding that you're holding your breath a little bit more? And one more time. Exhale, hold for a count of 5. Inhale, soften for a count of 5. And after that set, take another break. So these little breaks in between, if you're learning a new, well, let me say it this way, we're creating a new pathway, a new neuromuscular patterning. So this in-between break where we quiet everything down, let everything go, take a deep cleansing breath, it just helps to confirm or to cement in that new pattern that we're creating. Because we really want our body to be able to perform the Kegel exercise without really thinking about it, right? Okay, so now one more in this position, and then I'm going to ask you to sit up. Come back into the bent knee position. But I need you to grab now your either small pillow. Again, I have a Pilates ball that's partially deflated. You don't want anything real big. You want something that will fit between your inner thighs comfortably. So take either your folded up towel even, your squishy deflated ball, or your small pillow, place it between your thighs, but not between the knees, between the thighs, closer up to the pelvic floor. Then lay back down. Again, you're looking up at the ceiling. You don't need to be looking at the screen because this is the position I want you in. So take a moment. Again, relax everything. A deep cleansing breath. Now come to neutral with your pillow or ball in that position. From neutral, I want you to move into a tilt as you inhale, into a tuck as you exhale, drawing up again, initiating it from the pelvic floor, and to neutral. From neutral, draw your pelvic floor in and up without tilting the pelvis. You are only engaging your inner thighs at a minimal effort, let's say 10 or 20% effort, just to hold your pillow, the ball, your towel in place. Press your feet evenly into the mat and draw your hips up into a bridge. So from the bridge pose, I want you to take a moment and let your fingertips rest at your your ASIS, which we perceive as our front hip bones, and our lower rib. Can you feel a connection? So we are not in a yoga bridge. A yoga bridge would be a full extension. We're not going there. We're keeping a neutral spine, a connection of your core cylinder, the bony points of your core cylinder, and arms resting by your side. Your glutes and hamstrings are engaged just slightly enough to hold the position, that's all. On your next out breath, give me that same Kegel exercise. You're gonna draw in and up, and now with the tactical proprioception of the ball between your thighs, you may get a clearer sensation of drawing your pelvic floor muscles up and then releasing them. Exhale. Give me a Kegel. Inhale, soften the pelvic floor along with the glutes. So go ahead, keep on doing that. We're going to hold for a count of 5. And we're going to exhale and release it. Now, as you continue to do this, follow your count of 5, but just listen to my cues. Try not to put more effort in squeezing your butt. Your glutes, again, are active to support the position, but that's all. Think about from the ball right up a string pulling the center of your pelvic floor up into your abdomen and then releasing. Just a few more. Getting a clearer sense now. This position, gravity is working with us to feel a bit more sensation in the pelvic floor. And then on your last one, you're going to lower back down, relax your butt, relax your legs for a moment. Inhale, tilt the pelvis. Exhale, tuck the pelvis. Inhale, come back to neutral. Exhale, draw your pelvic floor in and bring your hips up to a bridge. Slowly inhale and lower. Exhale, pelvic floor, give me that Kegel. We come up into a modified bridge. We call this a Pilates bridge. Inhale, lower back down. 6 more, just like this. So from the pelvic floor first, feel, breathe, lower, release. Keep on going, 5 more. So the release is equally as important to the engagement. So continue, breathe, continue to move through. 4 more. Again, visualize the hammock, the muscles along the pelvic floor drawing up. Slowly, with control, drawing back down. It's like you're stopping the stream of urine. And another visual, another cue that is used in pelvic training therapy is think about trying to hold a tampon in. That's another way of connecting to those deeper internal muscles. The pelvic floor is very complex. We're treating it right now in a 2-dimensional kind of a hammock, imagining the hammock. Next week, we're going to get into a little bit more 3-dimensional and a little bit more of the structure and the ligaments and tendons that are connected to the pelvic floor and take the training at a deeper level. Right now, we're perfecting simply that. And after you finished that last set, then go ahead once again. Take a moment to extend out the legs, to relax, to just let your body go. Let your body move into a comfortable, relaxing everything, especially in the butt and abs and pelvic floor. Deep cleansing breath there. And when you're ready, you're going to roll over onto your side and then come up into a seated position. So any comfortable seated position is fine. If you want to sit on your cushion, sit on your towel, whatever it is, cross-legged, we're going to move into, over the next few weeks, using the Kegel exercise and combining it with different movements, like I mentioned earlier. Right now, I just want you to sit comfortably in whatever position that is for you. So now we're going to move into what we call quick flicks, or kind of quick pelvic floor contraction. So how that works is you simply imagine squeeze, release, squeeze, release, squeeze, release. So get comfortable, but before we begin, I want you to make sure your pelvis is balanced and make sure your spine is long. So whatever seated position, and you can be sitting on a chair, by the way, if that's more comfortable. Make sure that you're in good alignment. What you'll learn as we progress is the connection of the posture, of your postural muscles with your pelvic floor. It's amazing that working on your posture helps to tone and strengthen pelvic floor muscles. I know, amazing stuff. Okay, so sit comfortably and think of quick squeeze, complete relax. Squeeze, relax. Squeeze, relax. So join me. Squeeze the pelvic floor, relax. Squeeze the pelvic floor, relax. Now keep on doing that, again, at a pace that's comfortable for you. They're called quick flicks. It's like quick, release, squeeze, release. And notice, it's very easy to grip. It's very easy to make this more of a tightening of your whole core cylinder. And I'm going to invite you to release that. Just think about pulling up the hammock and dropping it, drawing it up and dropping it. And do 10 more. Close your eyes, feel, connect. Notice, how is your breathing? Find a rhythm of breathing that complements the movement without holding your breath. So we want to do this 25 times. You could do a few for extra credit if you want. And then when you're done, or if you find, again, sometimes if this work is new territory, sometimes like we try too far and then we try too hard and then we get to a point where we're just not sure that we got it anymore. So then you just need to stop and relax. So when you're ready, come over to all fours. Come to, this is a four, we call this a four-post position. Your knees are below your hips and your hands are below your shoulders. Take a moment to balance your weight evenly between those 4 points. Relax everything in between your hands and your knees. Inhale and let your pelvis tilt. That means your tail is going to go up behind you. Imagine it sliding up the back wall behind you. Your belly is going to drop. You got to be comfortable letting your belly drop here. Chest draws between your arms. Your shoulders are going to pull back a little bit, and your face is forward. I'm not asking you to look up. I'm asking you to just look forward. Now close your eyes here. Breathe in, invite a big breath in, and allow that breath to fill your belly. When you're ready to exhale, start at the pelvic floor. Draw the pelvic floor muscles in, and then your deep abdominal muscles engage, round the spine, and come up into, we call this a cat stretch. Now, when you're here, your pelvic floor and deep core muscles are engaged, your back is soft and stretching, your head and your tail are being drawn towards each other in this rounded spine position. On your next in-breath, release everything and come back to the spine extension. Fill the belly with breath. And now, with intention, pelvic floor draws up, exhale. And round. Inhale. Release. Exhale. Inhale. Release. Exhale. Inhale. Keep on going. 3 more. Is it getting easier to synchronize the breath with the movement with the engagement of your pelvic floor? Are you initiating the flexion, the spinal flexion from the bottom of your pelvis? Try to do that. And just 2 more focus. Breathe. Pelvic floor draws up, abdominals engage, and that's what moves the hips and rounds the back. And 1 more. Nice. And when you're done with that, everybody, again, lay down on your back, shake it out, rest, and give yourself a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Relaxing everything. And now come on up into a seated position. And you can go ahead and look at your screen. So that concludes the movement for today's session. What I want you to do is take a look at your homework. In order for this work to really be effective, like I mentioned earlier, it takes practice. So think about practicing. 2 exercises you want to practice, we're using the Kegel. 2 applications is, 1 is to contract, hold for 5 seconds, and relax for 5 seconds. Repeat that for 10 sets. Quick flicks, which is where we contract, release, contract, release, contract, release. Repeat that 25 times. Do both of those 2 to 3 times a day. So a good practice is do it in the morning, maybe as soon as you get out of bed, maybe when you're lying in bed. Do it again at, like, think about your break. If it's a lunchtime break and then an evening or dinner time, you can model it so that you remember to do it at those times. You can practice either one of these when you're stopped at a traffic light. That's a good time to do quick flicks. Because I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of patience. And when I'm at a traffic light, I find that the quick flicks are just more appropriate for me. So sitting at your computer, where, you know, many of us are working on a virtual platform these days. So we may find ourselves sitting more often, or, you know, we're remotely educating our kids, sitting at the computer, in the shower, when you're talking on the phone, and like I said, when you're lying in bed. So think about, and during the course of your day, remember, engage, and I promise next week, when we move on to the next lesson, everything we did today will become much more comfortable and much more clear and much more effective. And I will say, you probably, I can't give you any sense of time as to when you'll see the result of how effective this type of training is, but I am certain if you're a person that drinks a lot of water and therefore has to go pee a lot, you should see within a few weeks much better control. My email address is there, and of course you can always connect with Kayla, but any questions or any additional guidance that I can give you during the course of the week before we meet again next week, don't hesitate to reach out. And now, before you exit, if you have any questions or comments or anything that I can help you with before we end the session, then unmute yourself and, or let me see you on screen as well, and let me know.
So while we wait to see if anybody unmutes themselves or turns on their video, I just want to thank you, especially Susan, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to lead this really wonderful series. I personally am very excited about this. I drink one of these as a smoothie, and then I refill with water and water and water. So I'm totally that person who needs this.
I know, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that. I want to let everyone know that we are recording this series. So if you happen to miss one or came late and you'd like the recording of the session, please just let me know. You all have my email address. And just on behalf of PJ Library as well, which is supported by the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, I just want to let you know about a couple of things coming up now that it is February. For Purim, we have some fun things coming. We will actually be partnering with a synagogue for a carnival, Purim drive-through parade carnival thing at the end of the month, Sunday, February 28th. So keep an eye out for that, as well as a Mishloach Manot exchange. If you'd like to sign up to exchange some gift packages for Purim with other families, just keep an eye out for that. And with that said, stay warm, stay safe, stay sane. Let me know if you need anything, and we'll see you right here again next week.
Great. Bye, everybody. Thank you.